The first thing I noticed was the way her voice lowered when she said it, like she was afraid the moment might break if anyone else heard. The music was loud, laughter everywhere, but suddenly the space between us felt quiet and fragile. She leaned closer and whispered, "Dance with me. He's watching. The reward is a kiss." Have you ever been pulled into a moment like that, where someone else's fear becomes your responsibility and you have just seconds to decide what kind of person you're going to be? Before the story really begins, take a quick second to support the channel. If stories about real emotions and everyday kindness mean something to you, hit subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. It helps more people find stories like this on your channel name, and it means a lot to us. The fair was set up in the middle of a small town park in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, or at least knows someone who knows you. There were picnic tables, strings of triangle flags hanging between trees, and a local band playing covers that made people feel younger than they were. I'd come with a few friends after work, not expecting anything more than cheap food and a long night. That's when I saw her standing near the dance area, arms folded tight like she was trying to hold herself together. Her name was Hannah. I knew her in that vague way you know someone from town, shared smiles, quick hellos, nothing deeper. But that night, something was different. She kept glancing over her shoulder, eyes sharp with worry. When she finally came up to me, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. We talked for a minute about nothing important. Then she leaned in and said those words. I followed her gaze and saw him, a tall guy by the beer tent, staring a little too hard, his jaw set. I didn't know their history, but I didn't need details to understand the situation. She felt trapped. I laughed softly and replied, "That reward's too small." Not to flirt, not to tease, but to shift the energy. To let her know this wasn't a transaction. This wasn't about what I'd get. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I worried I'd said the wrong thing. Then I added, "I'll dance with you because you asked." No reward needed. We stepped onto the grass where people were swaying under warm string lights. I kept my hands respectful, my movements easy. We danced like two friends, nothing dramatic, nothing that would escalate the situation. I positioned myself so I could see the guy behind her, making it clear she wasn't alone. As the song played, I felt her shoulders slowly relax. Her breathing steadied. She even laughed once, a real laugh this time, surprised by her own relief. The guy by the tent watched for another moment, then turned back to his drink. Whatever power he thought he had faded quietly into the night. After the song ended, we didn't rush away. We stood there talking, and that's when she told me more. Not every detail, just enough. How he'd been controlling. How he'd shown up uninvited. How she didn't want to cause a scene in a town that fed on gossip. I didn't know what else to do, she admitted, staring at the ground. I just needed someone safe. That word stayed with me, safe. It wasn't heroic what I'd done. It wasn't brave in some dramatic way. It was small. It was human. But to her, it meant breathing again. We sat at a picnic table after that, joined by my friends, the moment blending back into the noise of the fair. Hannah stayed a while, then left with a friend, waving goodbye like the weight she'd been carrying had finally lightened. I thought that was the end of it. A week later, I got a message on social media. It was from Hannah. She thanked me not just for dancing, but for not making it weird, not asking questions, not expecting anything in return. She said that night had given her the confidence to set firmer boundaries, to ask for help again when she needed it. That message made me think about how often kindness gets misunderstood. People assume there's always a catch, that if you help someone you must want something back. But real kindness doesn't bargain, it just shows up. Months passed, life moved on, work stress, family stuff, the usual. Then one afternoon, my car broke down on the side of the road in the pouring rain. I was soaked, frustrated, and honestly close to losing my temper when a familiar car pulled over. It was Hannah. She didn't hesitate. She handed me a towel from her trunk, let me sit in her car, and stayed until help arrived. We laughed about the randomness of it all. As she drove away, she said, "Guess we're even now." But it wasn't about being even. It was about a chain reaction. One moment of kindness had turned into another, passing quietly from person to person. I started noticing it everywhere after that. The coworker who stayed late to help without being asked. The stranger who paid for someone else's coffee. The neighbor who checked in just to say hello. None of it made headlines, but all of it mattered. Looking back, I'm grateful she asked me to dance that night. Not because of the words she whispered, or the tension in the air, but because it reminded me how powerful simple choices can be. I could have said no. I could have joked it off. I could have walked away. Instead, I stayed present. Kindness doesn't always look like grand gestures. Sometimes it looks like standing still when someone needs an anchor. Sometimes it looks like offering safety without expectation. The next time you're in a crowded place and someone looks lost, the next time a small request feels inconvenient, remember this. You don't have to fix everything. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to be kind in the moment you're given, because you never know who's watching, not in a threatening way, but in a hopeful one. Someone might be learning from you what kindness looks like. Someone might carry that moment forward and pass it on, and maybe, years from now, they'll tell a story about how a small act changed the way they see the world. If that happens, you won't even know it. But the impact will live on quietly, beautifully, just like kindness always does.